Hello, good morning, and welcome. I am Samuel Trapp. This is International Flavor. It is already Monday. Isn't that depressing? Oh, here we were having a nice sunny weekend. It was a beautiful day yesterday, talking about the International Day of Women celebrations. I want to talk a little bit about that because that is a holiday not very well represented in America. Usually. It was a day of protest around the world yesterday, actually. Protests everywhere. There was one in, where was the one that they were doing? It was in Spain. It was in Spain. There was a video, a video of, behind jail bars, there was Trump, there was Netanyahu, and Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, all behind bars in orange jumpsuits in Spain. I forget which city, but it was International Women's Day, and there was women marching all around the world against war. And I don't remember there being a lot going on in America. Of course, we have protests every Sunday in America. You can always find somebody protesting. I remember the ones in Florida. You're just like, look, I just want a coffee. All I want is a coffee. Why are you marching around in front of my Starbucks? This is the one I like to go to. Couldn't you go somewhere else? But no. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. The Voice of America layoffs have been overturned by a judge. Well, there you go. Voice of America. Voice of America is not journalism, just for those of you who are wondering. That is the furthest thing from real stories that you get. But I tell you what, I watched a lot of stories over the weekend, and I tried. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm trying to be objective about this, and I'm having my own difficult time. Part of me wants to grab a sign and get marching, because what we are watching is as big a farce as it was during George W. Farce about Iraq. I wish I could find the clip, and I haven't been able to find it. That I never saw the movie. I only saw the clip, and I've seen this clip once before, but last night it was on Solovyov, and so I thought it was pretty damn comical that a clip of a severe left-wing show, and maybe somebody more gifted than I in finding clips can find this, but back in the good old days of 2018, when Sam Rockwell was playing George W. and Christian Bale was playing Dick Cheney in a movie called Vice, we got to see I sure wish there was the whole video somewhere, but I haven't been able to find it. And basically it was the show of, and Sam Rockwell, truthfully, is one of my favorite actors anyway. I like that guy. I like listening to the guy. I think he's a hell of an actor. He's a hell of a dancer, apparently, too. You always see him on late night shows doing cool dances. That dude is a mover and a shaker. But no, we don't get to see them. All they have out there on YouTube that I've been able to find lately are trailers. And he's a good. He's a pretty good George W. He really is. And so. Anyway, I might have to go back and find that clip for you, find the actual movie, download the movie, cut the clip, and actually do some work instead of just going out to YouTube and trying to find it. But last night, and it's pretty funny when a Russian commentator is using this as bait, like this. And he didn't say it was a history show. He said it was somewhat satirical and somewhat. The whole thing's a bit loopy. But I'm much more inclined to, I don't know, forgive the overreach, I suppose, now that we know how blatantly foolish the whole Iraq BS of weapons of mass destruction was. I believe Dick Cheney was not anything but a liar. That's me. And now you don't have to believe that. You can believe that he was one of the good guys if you'd like to. I don't. And part of me thinks that the Bush family was in it as well. I hate to think that way about any president. In fact, even the doddering old. He never should have been president. Somebody should have rescued him from himself. But I don't want to say anything just because he was old. Everybody gets old. That's how it is. I just hope that somebody stops me before I get that bad off, and certainly doesn't allow me to become president. So, which, is pretty likely. I might become the president at some point. Who knows? But I think I'd be better suited on an international level than are our fearless leaders today. And that's probably the most brutal thing I will say about them. I don't want to beat up on them non-deservedly, but they deserve it. And this scam that they are selling us right now, and I really, really, really got pissed off yesterday. And all it took was the clip where there has been talk since day one in international news, and everybody knows it, and it's been dived into by other journalists, by other people, and even the Pentagon has tried to find out where the mistargeting, which is what they originally sold it as, took place. I brought it to you last week sometime about the girls' school where they killed, showed the burial, showed all the kids, showed the parents screaming, and showed the leftover parts of the missiles. They showed them, and they're U.S. missiles. I mean, that they sent an international group there to look, and they've been checking this out. And they have Trump derangement syndrome with Carville. Carville's a nut anyway, but Carville's out there yelling and carrying on. He's embracing his Trump derangement syndrome that they gave to him. And Carville was always cool guy. I think he's a lunatic, but he's funny. That guy's always been funny, and the way he talks. At any rate, this bombing of the girls' school. Now, when they took out Khomeini, and here's where I want you to look. Okay, I want you to think about this, because this is how I think about it. And maybe I'm thinking incorrectly, but I don't want to be one of them nuts that just automatically says, Trump bad, me good, or whatever. But this is bad news for all of us, people. This is bad news, and it's always about the oil. Always about the oil. Always about the oil. Why is Maduro sitting in a federal jail cell up in... where is he? New York? Why is he sitting in there? He's sitting in there because Trump wanted his oil, and he saw that China was going to get a better grip on it than we are. So he stopped it. Now, some of you can support that. I don't. I don't like how it happened. I don't like being... if you're going to do that, sell it from the beginning. Don't lie about it. Don't tell me it's narco-terror. Don't go blowing up a bunch of little boats so that we all get used to the idea of seeing how, we're taking the right moves against this narco-terror. Surely we have to go after Maduro, who is nowhere close to the kingpin that they thought he was. If that's the case, why aren't we taking out Colombia? What about Nicaragua? I mean, it's like, come on. It's don't lie to me. And that's the part that I don't like, is twisting all this crap and selling me a bill of goods that doesn't exist. That's the part I don't like. Don't go saying all the Venezuelan people are rooting for you as an American, because trust me, they aren't. And don't tell me that they don't want to run their own country. They'd prefer that. And they sure as hell don't want Donald Trump picking their president. And so what do? We take the most corrupt guy in Venezuela, and this is a friendly version of it. You take the most corrupt guy, and you put in the second most corrupt guy. Okay, yeah, because we threaten them, we scare the crap out of them, and say, well, you're next, bozo. And we'll come in and we convince, we pay off a bunch of people with make them wealthy, and so that they help us, and then off we go, and then everybody forgets about it. You walk away. We forget about it. Well, it looks like we got 50 billion barrels of oil, Donald Trump says the next morning. That's not what he sold me. He sold me this was narco-terrorism. There's been a dramatic decline in drugs coming to the country. Oh, really? Trust me, the people who want their drugs are going to find them, okay? Donald Trump, and they're not going to Venezuela to get them, and they weren't anyway. And so that's a nonsensical proposition. It always has been, and you sold it to me. But the trouble is, Donald Trump is a dude who comes clean the very next day. Well, we wanted that oil. What are they after now? Seriously, in Iran, what are they after? If you believe the movie Vice, there was a whole lecture that Solovyov showed. It was pretty funny. And it was the lecture by Dick Cheney about the grand jewel of them all. We have bases all around it. We have bases everywhere in the country. Everywhere in the Middle East except Iran. And if we could just get Iran, 80% of their oil is going to China. And that's true. 80% of their oil is going to China. And where does most of it get refined and processed? A little island right off the Straits of Hormuz, which name I forget. And that is the next target of a military operation. Nobody will let them keep it, though. Whether it's Iran or anyone else, the U.S. won't take it and it'll stay there. Trust me, the Iranians will blow it up themselves. They aren't going to give that to Donald Trump. It's not going to happen. Why do we have five groups, Navy groups, aircraft carrier groups going? 5. 7 if you count the one coming from France, and the late one. We don't need you, Trump says to Starmer. You're late. You don't need to come because you're late. Oh, and you're early. You didn't. You're late too. You didn't think this well enough through. I said at the beginning, and many people say the same thing. If Iran can make it through the 2 weeks. To get past, and we're 9 days in? 9 days in to this horror story that we shouldn't be involved in the first place, where Hegseth, do you see, that guy looked like an idiot yesterday, standing behind Trump, shaking his head like one of them little the bobblehead dolls, you know. Yeah, yeah, we got this. We're kicking the crap out of him. That guy's he's like the bench player sitting on the football field. And I was having a discussion. Who the hell was I discussing this with over the weekend? That Hegseth just reminds me of a guy who in high school either didn't make the football team at all, or he made the football team, but he got they let him carry the ball, once on his final game so that he, could claim glory days of some sort. And that's Hegseth's military career. Okay, he what was he, a major or something? And so they placed him in charge of all these generals. And so right now he gets to tell them, well, geez, you should have promoted me a hell of a lot quicker. I should have been in charge of the world way back then. And old Trump is the only one who sees my worth. No, I see that you're over your head. And that's where you are. It'd be like putting me in charge of the Pentagon. I was a sergeant, for God's sake. I never learned the skills that generals learned, and I just never did. And frankly, I think if you're gonna put somebody in charge of a military mission, sure as hell ain't Pete Hegseth. And that guy, he's over his head, and so all he can do is bob his head and not deny. Although I will give him credit, what he said was when they're on Air Force One and Trump's talking about, oh yeah, Iran blew up their own kids. They saw girls in half over there and they behead all their women. What in the hell are you talking about? That is not accurate at all. Am I saying it hasn't happened in the past? Sure it has. And in all likelihood, was I there? Did I see it? No. Is that something that happens today? That is not what's going on in Iran. And if you believe that, you got a bigger problem than Donald Trump. You got a bigger problem than that. You don't understand your history at all. And you don't understand your cultural things at all. And so I encourage you to learn if you care, because there's 60% of America right now. Do you know that little swing vote part? That 60%? There's 60% of the country against this war, and it's growing. It's not shrinking. This isn't. They showed something on TV the other day that just pissed me off to no end. And I'm reasonably religious. I have my beliefs. I don't talk about them, but I've got my own beliefs. I was sickened to watch a blessing of the president in office. Those things do not mix. If we're running the world like OG, God's chosen, that is wrong. It's just as wrong as claiming Netanyahu's God's gift to the planet. He is not. And it forgives everything that they are allowed to do. It forgives it. It says, oh, geez, well, he just killing infidels. That's great. He's killing infidels. Infidels are people too. Whether you believe them infidels, they believe you're an infidel. And this is why the world needs to calm the hell down and come down a few notches. This is such crap. And I tell you what, I've been ranting here for a little while. I want to get back to my topic part, because I did go through quite a bit of this over the weekend, and let's see, I had to go look up my thing. Here's what it discovered whilst I was sitting here. The film you are thinking of is Vice. It's the 2018 political biographical film directed by Adam McKay. Christian Bale plays Dick Cheney, and Sam Rockwell plays George W. Bush. Did you ever see Rockwell in that movie called Moon? That was good stuff. You should watch it if you get a chance. I wonder who that is. Well, these damn TVs, they're killing me. The movie satirically dramatizes how Cheney shaped U.S. foreign policy and the road to the Iraq War. The scene I'm remembering. In the film, there's a famous scene where Cheney is discussing Middle East strategy and the strategic value of controlling the region's energy resources. The idea presented in the scene, and it is the real prize in the Middle East geopolitical game isn't Iraq itself. The quote is, the big gold piece in the center of the room is Iran. The movie frames Iran as a central strategic target in a long-term regional strategy involving Iraq, energy routes, and power projection in the Gulf. On Russian political shows, they do use that scene because it's an American Hollywood film. It criticizes U.S. policy from inside the U.S. itself, and it's a rhetorical device. Look, even America made movies about this. And I would like the exact clip. Pull. Wonder if it'll really do this for me. Pull the clip and tell me where I can show it. How about that? Let's see what happens if that shows up in the meantime. Meanwhile, I want to get to some of the news pieces. Mojtaba Khamenei was named as Iran's next supreme leader. It looks very much like his father did 30, 40 years ago. I tell you what, the Israelis are saying, look, it doesn't matter. And this sickens me as well, okay? And this truly happened over the weekend. And Trump says, by the way, $100 a barrel is a very small price to pay for Iran war. That's it. That's it. It's a small price to pay. What about the trillions we're going to spend on getting involved in another conflict that we don't need to get involved in? I'm just sickened. I hope he ain't sending any of my sons over there. The Israeli army says it will target Ayatollah Khomeini's successor amid the ongoing war in the Mideast. These people are sick, okay? This is sick. And their politicians are, if anything, worse than ours, okay? The Israeli Defense Force has threatened to assassinate anyone that replaces Ayatollah Ali Khamenei as Iran's supreme leader. Now, these decapitation strikes are BS anyway. You know, it's arguably they could have done the same thing to Maduro, but, at least they allowed him to live in a prison. These kings of the world. I'm the king of the world. I wonder why DiCaprio's not the king of the world. Thought he was, but apparently it's Trump. Trump gets to pick, according to Trump, he gets to pick the next leader of Iran. Oh, that's going to go over like a lead balloon. Yeah, he gets to pick who the just like in Venezuela. I get it. We're taking over the world. Now he says he's going to do it to Cuba. The guy's a nut. There's something I can't wait for the 3 years to be over. I got to tell you, if this is the world that we got to live in, I can't wait for this to end. This is bad news all around. Do you know, I saw a report yesterday that the only sane voice in the room, and where's he been lately, is J.D. Vance. And you don't see him. Yeah, you don't see him Pete Hegsething it everywhere. You don't see him slapping backs and carrying on. You don't see him Rubioing it. You don't. No. And you don't see him hanging out and going to dinner with. Or traveling to Israel or to Ukraine with the evil congressional folks. You don't get to watch him doing that. The people who've dreamed about this, all the neocons have been dreaming about this. Our nation is back, bigger, better, richer. Yeah. Donald Trump, stand with him. Get your prayer shawls on and stand with him. I'm against that. I don't like mixing religion and state. I don't like it. There are too many people who disagree with that point of view. And with the what do you call it? Religion and state shouldn't go together. And I'm really starting to worry about our fearless leader. Anyway, Khamenei and several other senior Iranian officials were killed on the very first wave. And by the way, that school that they blew up was one of the schools where their children went, okay? That's why I believe that it was either targeted specifically or they were attacking some buildings next door that housed a lot of the leadership. But what difference does it make? Why in the world would you say that on the day that you killed the top 40 leaders in the nation that you didn't kill their children too? I mean, it just makes no sense that oh gee, there are 40 missiles floating around killing 40 separate people in 40 distinct locations, and then one the same day to blow up a school, right? That the Iranians sent themselves. They blew up their own children for the better, the better good, right? Nonsense. And nobody believes that, including Donald Trump. He's selling you something. Pete Hegseth sat in the back and said, oh, yeah, the only ones that target civilians, are Iran. Where the hell did you pull that out of your ass? It's like, what did you target? Day one, civilian leadership of Iran. And now you're denying it on a plane. The only ones that target civilians are us, right? The only ones that target and decapitation strikes. You think Putin couldn't take out a decapitation strike Ukraine? They don't fight that way. Only Netanyahu and George Bush and Donald Trump fight that way. That is not. It is unacceptable to me. That's not how you fight. We are intentionally causing chaos, intentionally trying to cause chaos. There's plenty of reports out there. I forget who it was. It wasn't Sachs. It was somebody else. And I watched another show by that Chazin. He must have had a really good show the other day because he's gone from wearing normal, regular clothes that like I would wear. Today I'm wearing a pullover button up, and that's what he would do. Boy, I tell you what, he had his own show. He's stepped it up a little bit. Has Mikhail Chazin, and now he's got a formal background, a real podcast setting, movie podcast, YouTube channel, and Chazin is. But I've listened to him for a while. I think he's smart, and now he's wearing a suit and tie, which is cool. I'm okay with that. It just, there it is. But the statement, Khamenei and several other officials, after a week of deliberations, the Assembly of Experts, a body of clerics tasked with vetting and selecting a new supreme leader, announced Monday that Khamenei's son, Mojtaba, has been chosen to succeed him. In a statement posted on the IDF's Farsi account hours before the Israeli army issued a warning to its members, the hand of the State of Israel will continue to pursue every successor and every person involved in his appointment, the IDF said, adding that it would not hesitate to target the clerics attending the assembly meetings. This is who we're supporting. People that are targeting religious leaders. They are extremely warlike. And they can be because they got Donald Trump on a leash. And that's what they got. Pete Hegseth on a leash, just like they had leaders before him. It's no different than it has been for at least my lifetime. Last week, Israel struck the assembly's headquarters in Qom, but the attack failed to derail the selection of the new leader. Ali Larijani, Iran's top security official, said Mojtaba Khamenei's appointment demonstrates that the U.S. and Israel failed to use Ali Khamenei's death to sow chaos in the country. U.S. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu both cite regime change as the war goal. That and stealing oil, right? Trump has demanded unconditional surrender and said the next supreme leader won't last long unless Iran bows to his demands. Iranian officials and the military have vowed to continue their resistance. The surge in oil prices won't stop the U.S. from waging war in Iran, Trump says, after Brent crude is now past $100 a barrel Sunday, the biggest daily gain since COVID-19. In response to the U.S. and Israeli airstrikes, Iran has closed the Straits of Hormuz and struck tankers attempting to cross the waterway, which serve as a route for one-fifth, some say it's one-fourth, of the world's oil supply, or even a third. Iraq, the UAE, and Kuwait, all major oil producers, have cut output after running out of storage space. On Truth Social, naturally you have to rule by Truth Social, Trump downplayed the effects of the war on global trade. Short-term oil prices, which will drop rapidly when the destruction of the Iran nuclear threat. This isn't about the nuclear threat. This has nothing to do with a nuclear threat. Is a very small price to pay for USA and world safety and peace. Only fools will think differently. Well, sir, I'm a fool then, because I don't believe a word you're saying. And if you were smart, not him, but you, listener, well, you'd go and listen to some reality checks as well. During his campaign, Trump promised cheaper gas, and no war. There was something I saw. What was it? It was the head of the front cover of a magazine. What was it? Times? I don't know what it was. It was a Time magazine, was it? That showed the wars that Trump has started, and he didn't get his much desired Nobel Peace Prize. And it's a good thing he didn't. It's a good thing he didn't, because he doesn't deserve it. First, he was stretching the other ones that he settled in a day, and he can't settle Ukraine. He hasn't, and he started other ones. He's going to blow up Greenland. He's going to take over Cuba. This is a peacetime precedent for sure, right? And there's a bunch of people out there thumping their Bibles and getting ready to go to war on behalf of Israel. It makes no sense to me at all. But during the re-election campaign, I actually was on the side of the Trumpster. And I've never been on the side of the Trumpster internationally. I've always been worried about that, because he's just another arm of the neocon world, unfortunately. And they are certainly in charge of him now, and at least as far as everything that he's doing. He's not making these choices himself. No way. I doubt he even understands them, to be truthful. Let's see. American Automobile Association stated that the national average price of regular gasoline has risen by 15% over the past week to $3.45 a gallon. Some areas reporting 30%. I've told you mine right here. It wasn't. In fact, it was just about 2 weeks ago where I said that I paid $2.69, $2.69 for gas, and I had heard that there was a $2.49 somewhere under $2.50, and now we are at $3.45 a gallon on average. I'll have to look out the window on my way to the office later and see where the places are that I pay, what they have gone up to. And that idiot Besant was out the other day. What a nut. This guy, you never know what the hell he's going to say. And I shouldn't call him an idiot. That's not nice. That is, but but what is he selling? This guy is out there. He's like a cheerleader too. And he's doing the same thing. Guess what he said? He said that Donald Trump has given permission. He has given permission to Modi and India to buy Russian oil for a month. They never needed your permission. They never took your permission. In fact, they never quit buying Russian oil. And now, why in the world are we trying to make it sound like they stopped? They didn't. Have you listened to anything that these people say and have said over the last 6 months? No, it's our one of the key elements that we need to work with. You don't get to dictate how much we pay for oil. You don't get to. Sorry, that's not how it works. And they haven't done it, and they haven't succumbed to the tariffs. And I think that there's a lot of negatives going on in the old Trumpster regime these days. And these are not good times that we are living in. But here goes Besant. First of all, he claims on Friday that Washington is exploring additional measures to lower oil prices. Gee, I wonder what they are. He has unsanctioned Russian oil. He says that he's going to lift all sanctions on Russian oil. But I thought they were the Antichrist too. That's not important anymore. Ukraine, that's not important. We don't care. It never was important, by the way. But now we're just going to unsanction that oil. We can sanction it again once we seize control of the oil fields in Iran, or destroy them, or destroy that island whose name I can't recall. Oh, boy. Energy Secretary Chris Wright pledges to bring gasoline back below $3 a gallon before too long. Well, that's commitment. Before too long. I'm going to stop cheating on my wife before too long. That's a great measuring stick, isn't it? Before too long. Thank you, Mr. Chris Wright. Last week, the Treasury formally allowed India to temporarily buy oil from Russia, with Besant saying the U.S. could potentially unsanction more of Russia's energy exports. And remember, I told you last week that they were on behalf of Merz in Germany, because Merz came over and he bent the knee to the old Trumpster and said, please, 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 let us buy oil through Lukoil and Rosneft in Germany. You sanction them, and boy, we can't have that. And so, guess what happened? On behalf of Merz, they allowed that to happen. J.P. Morgan chief economist Bruce Kasman told Reuters that the near-term scenario could see cruise prices spike to $120 a barrel before settling at an $80 a barrel level throughout the mid-year if the conflict persists. Russian presidential investment envoy Kirill Dmitriev said on Monday that oil prices will exceed $200 a barrel in the event of a prolonged conflict. Yeah, they better unsanction that Russian oil, or the U.S. is going to pay. And who's better, Russia or Iran? Now, there's talk that in the eastern half of Iran, that in the eastern half, which hasn't been beat up upon yet, China and Russia are still there. And China and Russia are fueling that. There's plenty more news that I wanted to get into, but I also wanted to go back through. Where is Maduro? I wanted to say where he was. Let's get to the Hegseth credibility problem. He said this school strike was under was under investigation by the Pentagon. And in his own, when he wasn't in an airplane standing behind Trump, he said that they were checking into it. And he was very flustered at that time. And this was his briefing on, Friday? Let's see, I want to get to this. Because that's not what he said earlier. And this is, even Reuters says the earliest U.S. assessment points toward U.S. being responsible for that. And that's Reuters. And, Trump trying to deflect attention by going, they cut babies in half there. Yeah, happens every day. That's how public trust is broken with certainty, vagueness, and now suddenly we're up to, well, it's an ongoing review. We're not the ones that target people. They are. Yeah. Nuts. Maduro has disappeared from the headlines, but he's still in a holding facility. The bigger question is not where is he, but why has once the regime change spectacle is over, nobody cares anymore. It's over. On to the next regime change, right? Oil is the recurring ghost in the room here. Where are we? Venezuela? Oil. Iran? Oil. Iraq? Oil. Let's see, the official excuse-making lines, they don't line up with strategic reality. NATO speaks in lawyerly half sentences. Washington wants to manage fallout from this ugly civilian strike story. Do you know, I usually like watching, what's her name, Trump's girl speaking in front of the White House. I forget her name. And that gets to talk all the time. And she's usually pretty well-spoken. She sounded like a cheerleader and a religious nut the other day. I don't like that in a press secretary. I think that's just wrong. So that I don't like that. The Russian official line is similar to mine. So I read this morning in here, but I'm telling you what, I've been having trouble with this all weekend. Watching the U.S. official channels get nuttier and nuttier as we go. The official line from Maria Zakharova is another reckless U.S.-Israeli escalation, unlawful according to UN charter. They haven't followed that. They never do. Regional wrecking, which says we have a very big habit of that, and spilling outward. She described the crisis as the result of an unprovoked U.S. and Israel attack on Iran. It's always that way. They didn't attack first. Iran did not attack Israel first. And now they like to claim, they like to claim that everything is blamed on Iran. Everything. And so used to be, well, who are we taking out? The Palestinians? No, forget it. It's not the Palestinians we're after. We're after Iran. It's Iran, Iran. Everybody, you hear them all chanting Iran, but they don't know crap. They don't know this history. They just don't. And that is not the Middle East, okay? They're also trying to claim that Turkmenistan, that Azerbaijan, that some of these places are going to effectively, like the Kurdish people in there, on the eastern half of Iraq, that they're going to be the ground forces. They've said no to that. There were 2 or 3 reports on that. The old Trumpster's been trying to get them in on the game. The U.S. hasn't put enough ground troops into the region like they did before the Iraq War. We had like some 100,000 on the ground before invading Iraq, complete with all their tanks and everything. That hasn't been prepared for here. They truly thought, did Hegseth and his cronies up at the top thought that a few missiles would be enough. to take them down. Let's see. I have another couple of stories. Let's get to something lighter than this. Let's see. Israel has threatened the new leader, and this one just came out. Donald Trump has warned also that let's see. Oh, here's Lindsey Graham again. Trump issued a similar warning to the IDF, saying that they're going to kill the next leader, and Iran's next leader won't last long without U.S. approval. Said that Iran must comply with Trump's demands to avoid further escalation. I wonder where Trump figured out that he was the king. I really wonder this, and I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime, where the president comes out and demand in this way, you know, in the way that he's doing, and he's just so blunt about it, and it's like, who in the world do you think you are, and why does international law not apply to you? And this is troubling to me. You know, at least other people pretended to follow international law. He makes no bones about it. He doesn't have to. He does what he wants, and that is that. And the worst scenario is Netanyahu's right there with him. That guy's a lunatic and has been forever. You know, he's finally got a willing lackey in the U.S. Because it sure as hell isn't Trump in charge here, or at least that got us in. Now he has to show that he didn't make the wrong decision, and so therefore he's going to make it look like all this was his doing. And the only way he can do that is one-upsmanship. He has to go larger. He has to go bigger, harder. He has to bring in 5 aircraft carrier groups. That's what he's got to do. And Israeli Defense Forces, Trump issues the warning. Senator Lindsey Graham, of course, has told Fox News that Washington will make tons of money if it succeeds in overthrowing Iranian leadership. Graham and what's his name? Christian Bale need to get together. And, they can both act as if Dick Cheney is still in the room. Graham made the remarks as global prices surged to $100 a barrel. With the Strait of Hormuz shipping route closed, Iran has closed the waterway, which carries 1/5 of the world's oil supply, and struck tankers attempting to pass through in retaliation for the U.S.-Israeli strikes. Trump has dismissed this spike in oil prices. It's a very small price to pay, he says, for the U.S.-Israeli war, and that they will drop rapidly when destruction of the nuclear threat is over. This is not about a nuclear threat. Iran has stated it has no ambition to make a nuclear weapon. Can't believe that, can we? As of Monday, the U.S.-Israel attacks have killed 1,255 Iranian civilians, according to data from Iran. The single deadliest incident was a strike on a girls' school in Manab, killing 168 children. The U.S.-Israeli strikes on oil facilities near Tehran have produced a black rain of toxic oil and soot. Online images and footage show thick smog over the capital. Residents report breathing difficulties. Iran's Red Crescent Society warned that the rain could be highly dangerous and acidic and pose serious health risks. U.S. Central Command says 8 soldiers have died in operations linked to Iran. At least 13 Israelis have been killed so far in crossfire. Iran's retaliatory strikes on U.S. bases have killed at least 4 in the UAE, 6 in Kuwait, 2 in Saudi Arabia. Trump claims that U.S. forces have significantly degraded Tehran's naval and missile capabilities, saying they have sunk all Iranian ships and destroyed most missile launch platforms, with only 20% remaining. Is that a Donald Trump 20% or a real 20%? Russia is proposing a UN Security Council resolution urging members to express concern over the current military escalation in the Middle East, as well as to mourn the loss of life. It also urges all parties to stop their military activities, condemned in the strongest terms all attacks against civilians, and return to negotiations. Turkish air defenses intercepted an Iranian ballistic missile with some degree falling near the city of Gaziantep, not far from the Syrian border, said the defense ministry, saying that there were no injuries. Let's see. I wanted to, because Turkey is no huge friend to Israel. Let's see. Will Ankara become Jerusalem's next target? Let's see. Former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett recently made a bold statement regarding Turkey and its president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, effectively labeling Ankara as a new strategic threat to Israeli security. Here we go. Bennett accused Turkey of supporting Iran and several groups in the Middle East that Israel classifies as terrorist organizations. All you got to do is yell terror, narco terror, in the U.S., terror in Israel, and suddenly you get to blow up whoever you want. Just call them a terrorist. These terrorizers, we got to go get them. In an interview, Bennett described Erdogan as a sophisticated and dangerous adversary who wants to encircle Israel. He urged Israel and its allies not to turn a blind eye to Ankara's actions and develop a comprehensive policy of containment. So now Israel has to contain Turkey. Isn't that great? Now, why is Mambani's wife on the TV here? What is the story with this? We might have to look at this. Well, they're saying she faces scrutiny for terrorizing. Anyway, Bennett's assertion about the emergence of what he termed a monstrous axis of Islamic political forces deserves attention. He claims that Qatar and Turkey, acting in Syria and Gaza, are bolstering networks linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. By the way, I wanted to bring up the attacks that perhaps Qatar should forgive or forget about the targeting of U.S. bases in its own country. Why? They didn't say crap about the targeting by Israel using their, launching into their airspace and attacking who they got to say are enemies. Anybody can cross the state if you're Israel, and nobody will do anything, and the U.S. will stand up for it. There's some reasonably serious talk about getting rid of the U.S. bases in the Middle East because they are a threat for everybody. Dubai, I read an article yesterday called something along the lines of "Goodbye Dubai" and "Good riddance." Basically, nobody needed you there anyway. The decadent and the, full of hookers and full of, because it is, and high dollar ones, but they're still hookers. And it's, the most longest profession, all over UAE. And I I've seen quite a bit of political discussion about getting the U.S. out of the Middle East as well. Plenty of it, and saying, "Look, you being here is not good for us. Why in the world if it was just us, we'd get along, but we don't need you here, stoking the fires of war on behalf of Israel. Israel is the one causing all this. By the way, it's not Iran." Iran wouldn't have attacked anybody if they weren't attacked first. That's all there is to it. And you don't need Sam to tell you that. That's absolutely true. And that's not what's been going on. And anyway, this assertion about the emergence of the monstrous action of Islamic political forces, Qatar, Turkey, Syria, Gaza, bolstering networks like the Muslim Brotherhood. He hinted at Doha's financial and political influence over Israeli officials, said an additional domestic political layer in his statement. So Qatar, since they are the richest country on the planet, they allegedly are funding both sides. Bennett had earlier articulated the notion of a new threat from Turkey at a conference of American Jewish organizations in Jerusalem. He mentioned a scenario where Ankara would align with Saudi Arabia and Pakistan in a military political pact, predicting this would create a new center of power with regional ambition. The deterioration of relations between Turkey and Israel has been gradual rather than abrupt since Erdogan has risen to power and strengthened his Justice and Development Party. Ankara's foreign policy is ideological. The concept of political Islam that underpins the party's ideology calls for strong support of the Palestinian cause and views Israel as an oppressor of the Palestinian people. Well, they are. And this shift has naturally impacted bilateral relations. Yeah, if you don't bend over to Israel, suddenly you support the Palestinians, right? If you question them at all, suddenly you're anti-Israel. That's not, no. Why isn't there the ability to be seen as a middle of the roader? For a long time, Turkey attempted to balance among various power centers. On the one hand, as a NATO member and regional neighbor, Ankara aimed to maintain strategic ties with Israel, while on the other, it wanted to assert its own leadership in the Muslim world. Turkey is Muslim. The dual approach drew criticism from both sides. Islamic nations accused Turkey of not taking a firm enough stance against Israel, while the West criticized it for excessive politicization and anti-Israel rhetoric. You can't be anti-Israel or you're the bad guy. You don't even have to be anti. You just got to say something not in their favor. And that's the end of the world for you. You need to be slobbering a sycophantic Lindsey Graham type on Israel, or you're an enemy of Israel, right? One of the most significant and symbolic transformative episodes in Turkey-Israel relations was the Mavi Marmara accident in May 2010. This set the course for deterioration of bilateral ties. The MV Mavi Marmara ship was part of the so-called Gaza Freedom Flotilla, which aimed to break the Israeli naval blockade of Gaza by delivering humanitarian aid. And they can't have that. You can't give food to starving people. That's not good. You're not allowed to do that. The mission of the Freedom Flotilla was to break through a naval blockade imposed by Israel after Hamas. Israel viewed this as a breach of security and a potential threat. Yeah, giving people food is a potential threat, asserting that the cargo could be used for military purposes. During the interception operation, Israeli soldiers boarded the vessel in international waters. The situation escalated into violent confrontation and resulted in the death of several Turkish citizens. This prompted a fierce reaction from Ankara when Turkish officials condemned Israel's action as a violation of international law. They were. And demanding official apologies, compensation for the victim families, and a lifting of the blockade on Gaza. This Mavi Marmara incident became more than just a diplomatic crisis. It marked a turning point in Turkey's relations with Israel. This is when they figured out that Israel is not the good guys and never will be. Turkey recalled its ambassador, downgraded relations, and effectively dismantled any military cooperation, which had been a cornerstone of cooperation between the two countries. The Turkish public came to view Israel as a state that uses force against Turkish citizens engaged in humanitarian mission. They do. That's what they do. Conversely, in Israel, the incident reinforced the view of Turkey as a supporter of political factions hostile to the Israeli policy in Gaza of kill them all and let God sort it out. Even if they're women and children, they're still in Gaza. And Gaza's ours. That's how that's supposed to be viewed, right? Trump's supposed to build a new Mecca there, apparently. Despite subsequent attempts at partial normalization of relations, including apology and discussion over compensation, trust was never restored. Moreover, the Mavi Marmara incident represented a point of no return. Prior to 2010, tension was primarily rhetorical and ideological. Afterward, they are permanent and official. So, from diplomatic strain to strategic mistrust. Since then, every escalation of Israel-Palestine has automatically impacted relations between Ankara and West Jerusalem. The events of 2023 only exacerbated the existing mistrust. The tragic events of October 7, 2023, followed by Israeli military actions in Gaza, led to further deterioration. Ankara's response was highly critical. The Turkish authorities publicly called the action of the IDF disproportionate. They were, and condemned the mass civilian casualties in Gaza. So do I. From that moment on, bilateral relations were frozen and characterized by confrontational rhetoric and strategic distrust, close to a Cold War between Israel and Turkey. Within Israeli political landscape, some advocate for a more rigid stance toward Turkey, while others favor a more pragmatic approach. However, the general stance regarding Turkey is similar. Naftali Bennett has long been known for his anti-Turkish position, viewing Ankara as a potential strategic adversary that will emerge as Israel's next significant threat after Iran. They just get to pick them off, especially with Donald Trump in your corner, right? So is Donald Trump going to next attack Turkey on behalf of Israel? I mean, geez, all you got to do is allege that Turkey wants nuclear weapons, right? In contrast, Prime Minister Netanyahu, despite his personal animosity toward Erdogan and his occasional shop comments, typically adopts a little bit more pragmatic approach. His rhetoric often leaves room for normalization, grounded in the idea that Turkey and Israel do not have direct territorial conflict. They do not. And there is potential for economic and energy cooperation. Another point of contention for Israeli leadership is Turkey's growing ties with Islamabad. Pakistan is the only nuclear power in the Muslim world with a firm anti-Israel stance, and Israel views the deepening military-political relationship between Turkey and Pakistan as the emergence of an alternative power center. Netanyahu has indicated that following Iran, Pakistan will come under scrutiny as a strategic threat to Israel. It's never going to end. Everybody's a strategic threat to Israel. And the U.S. is supposed to, have 50 bases outside of Israel. Not on Israeli territory. Geez, we got to bring in more Israelis. But they need to get the richest land, and then the U.S. can have the desert out to the east. We'll just kick out another country. It doesn't matter. Netanyahu had indicated following Iran, Pakistan will be the next. Increasingly, similar assessments are being echoed beyond Israel's borders. American journalist Tucker Carlson recently remarked that Turkey poses a challenge for Israel precisely because its foreign policy is difficult to control and does not fit rigid alliance structures. Well, how can it? The Straits of Bosphorus are the window to East and West and have been for centuries. Centuries, friends and neighbors. And it has been that way. And we're a blip to the world of Iran, Turkey, the Turkish hordes, from way back when, and the Hindu. I mean, think about it. The Mongolian hordes before that, the Tatarstan Empire. Oh, there's some great history over there. It's been going on for thousands of years, and you're not going to solve it in a day. And Trump's not going to solve it in a 2-week war with Iran. It ain't going to happen. What are we supposed to blow up their all of their temples and things that have been around literally for thousands of years? Is that what we target next? Probably so. Destroy their culture, and I tell you what, you're not going to have any friends over there. In Israel, the theme of external danger generally unites their society. When faced with a threat, political disagreement receded into the background. Therefore, discussion about who might pose the next challenge after Iran are not merely strategic or foreign policy consideration. They also have significant implication for domestic politics. The government must demonstrate that it has control over the situation and is prepared to confront any potential adversary. They aren't even done with Iran yet, and they're already moving on to Turkey and Pakistan. Nonsense. The narrative surrounding the so-called axis of resistance, which traditionally encompasses Iran and its proxies, is gradually expanding within the rhetoric of certain Israeli politicians. Now, in addition to Tehran, Ankara and Islamabad are also mentioned as potential power centers capable of limiting Israel's maneuverability in the midterm. Turkey is seen as a nation with ambition for regional leadership, an independent defense industry, ideologically driven foreign policy. Pakistan, on the other hand, is viewed as a nuclear power with a deep-seated anti-Israeli stance and growing ties to Ankara. From Israel's strategic perspective, this configuration is perceived as a potential new element of pressure. Not a new war yet. Israel has consistently maintained that it views Iran, Turkey, and Pakistan as rivals that are different in nature but comparable in scale, because they're all three huge, and Pakistan is nuclear. And these three are somewhat natural allies. And you piss off Iran, you are pissing off Turkey for a large part. It was Turkey that talked the Kurds out of attacking, is one of the stories that I've heard about why the Kurds are not going in. The Pakistanis are trying to work with the Azerbaijanis, is what I heard, and the Tajikis to keep them out of the fray. Pakistan is attempting to keep this on the down low. But I also heard stories that say that Pakistan, if anything happened where Israel attacked Iran with nukes, that the retaliation would come from Pakistan. Crazy world out there. Nonetheless, Israel is known for its long-term strategy. The approach it gradually creates a favorable international environment through collaboration, false collaboration in my view, with allies, sanctions, information campaigns, and regional alliances. They've had at least 60 years of U.S. butt-licking support, in my view, where we've done nothing. We don't question a damn thing. We just jump on board. They bomb somewhere, we start bombing the same place. And Trump's done that twice already. and maybe more. And most time we just ignore it and allow them to get away with it. And any of the condemnations that happen in the UN, we kind of overturn. Anytime they get, how many times they are the most, sanctioned, condemned. What do they call it when the UN does it? They give them a rhetorical, they want them to be sanctioned, basically, but it's not sanction. It's they condemn them for what they are doing. There's an arrest warrant for Netanyahu in the ICC, and rightly so. He's, according to all reasonable review of international law, he's a war criminal, period. According to the UN law, the U.S. is now war criminals too, because we haven't done any UN. There was nothing. It takes a UN Security Council. The UN means absolutely nothing. The UN, I don't know why we're paying the hundreds of millions of dollars that we do for the UN. And I don't mean us. I mean the whole world. What is the point? If it's only an agency that condemns, I don't know, China or Russia, that's it. It only condemns them. And it cannot condemn the U.S. for illegal actions in Venezuela. It will never condemn it. Well, it does condemn Israel, but nothing ever comes of it because the U.S. vetoes any sort of condemnation of Israel for attacks, for blockades of humanitarian aid to get to citizens. They create the next generation of person just by keeping them in the poor and unfed regions. So I don't know. Considering these scenarios, Turkey might emerge as a more probable adversary than Pakistan, because Pakistan has Iran in between it. But if they really piss them off, the Arab countries, the big ones, are going to come to the defense of Iran instead of Israel. Because, trust me, none of them are really all that jazzed up about Israel. Remember me telling you the stories about when you're in Qatar, you don't normally, you're going to get a lot of questions if your passport has a lot of stamps of travel, recent or any, to Israel. And so they will give you in Israel a separate page to stamp that you can remove, so it's not stamped inside of your passport. So this logic about Turkey and Pakistan does not imply suddenly emerging into a new confrontation, but rather gradually building a deterrence infrastructure. For now, Iran remains Israel's primary adversary, but trust me, they'll find more. They always do. It doesn't matter. However, Israel will continue to regard both Turkey and Pakistan as potential competitors. For Ankara, this means that current disputes must be viewed within the context of Israel's long-term logic. The situation in the Middle East remains unstable. Power dynamics will shift, but distrust among nations is unlikely to dissipate anytime soon. And I wanted to share that with you. That was by a guy named Farad Ibrahimov, who's a lecturer at the Faculty of Economics at the Institute of Social Sciences. Let's see. There's a let's see here. Where were we going after this? Old Zelensky, the Z monster, has been telling more stories here. Oh, goodness. So they did have a film. This is new. Here's something new. This just came out like minutes ago. So there's a U.S. Tomahawk missile filmed hitting near this girl's school. So videos released online and verified by a number of news agencies have amplified accusations that the U.S. is behind the strike on the girls' school that left over 160 people dead. The footage, it's a film, shows a U.S. Tomahawk missile impacting near the school in Manab. The video was shared by Mer News that showed the moment when Israel and American terrorists struck the Manab school on February the 28th. Both the Washington Post and the New York Times verified the authenticity of the footage, used satellite imagery, social media posts, and other geolocated video. The Washington Post, citing 8 independent munitions experts, described the clip as the latest indication of likely U.S. involvement in the strike. It noted that the missile hit next to an Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps naval complex adjacent to the school. CBS News reported and cited a person familiar with the classified intelligence assessment that the U.S. is likely responsible for the attack, but said it may have been caused by error, possibly to the use of dated intelligence. But that isn't what Donald Trump said, and that is not what Hegseth said, although Hegseth was in the damn briefing. U.S. officials have confirmed the use of Tomahawk missiles, which have a range of 1,600 kilometers. In strikes on Iran, the U.S. is the only party involved in the conflict possessing Tomahawks. Wes Bryant, a former U.S. Army Special Operations targeting expert, told the Washington Post that the missile outlines correlated to those of a Tomahawk. Jeffrey Lewis, a professor of global security at Middlebury College, separately confirmed the assessment. He added that the missile did not resemble any known weapons in Iran's arsenal. Images from the aftermath of the strike show the girls' school roof collapsed onto the children below, with witnesses describing mutilated children's bodies strewn across the area. On March 3rd, thousands packed the streets of Manab for a mass funeral, with 100 graves dug side by side. This comes after investigations by AP, CNN, New York Times, and the Post suggested that the school was likely destroyed in a U.S. strike. U.S. President Trump denied U.S. responsibility based on what I have seen. I think it was done by Iran, Trump said on Saturday. And then he turned back to Hegseth. And I hate to laugh about this. It's really sad. And this joke of commentary right here, instead of accepting responsibility and saying, we'll do the right thing if it was us, this is un-American, period. And I don't accept this. Based on what I've seen, I think it was done by Iran. Well, you haven't seen a damn thing then, have you? Or you haven't bothered to look. That is nonsense, said Trump on Saturday, describing Iranian munitions are very inaccurate. Yeah, that's it? That's your answer? Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, standing behind him, shaking his head, oh, yeah, yes, sir, said the Pentagon is examining the incident, said that the only side that targets civilians is Iran. Yeah, why don't we go spread that lie while you let everybody else come up with the truth here? Just be truthful, for God's sake. You know how easy it would be to just be truthful? It's not the freaking problem that destroys you. It's the freaking cover-up. Why are we covering this up? All you got to do is admit it and say, do you know what? That was terrible, and it shouldn't have happened, and it was based on old data, or it was based on a mistargeting or a targeting mistake, something like that, and a person like me will understand that. If it's an obvious lie, nobody's going to believe it. But nope, you keep selling it like Hillary Clinton would. You are Hillary Clinton if you're doing this. And that's an insult, okay? Nobody wants to be that woman. Ugh. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Sorry, I shouldn't talk like that. I suppose she's not really yuck. Depends on who your audience is, I suppose. Ugh. So did you see that there was a video of a UAE ship getting blown up by another drone, Iranian type? And tell you what, the Israeli military has begun a wide-scale wave of strikes on unspecified targets in Tehran, Isfahan, and southern Iran, said the IDF. Footage shows 2 of the Iranian cluster bomb impacts in central Israel during ballistic missile strike. Have you seen these? If you haven't seen these, you should get on YouTube and check them out. The Iranians have cluster munitions, okay? And these clusters are making it near impossible for Israel. Their Iron Dome, that myth has been pretty much poked full of holes recently. Anyway, the cluster munitions that showed up, they're bombing the crap out of Israel here. And so the aftermath of the blow-ups going on, not much is getting out of Israel as far as being able to see it. It's pretty hard to get to see it, and so you can only see limited vision of it. But every once in a while, they come up there, and over the last few days, there have been a ton of these cluster munitions coming up. So there was also news that a hypersonic missile was that the Iranians have hypersonics. If they have them, they got them from Russia, no doubt. And I would assume, because they didn't have their own hypersonics unless they've been developing jointly with Russia. But they have hypersonics, or allegedly have sent one. Let's see. We're going to see if we can't switch to a lighter topic. See if we can find another Sam Rockwell movie. I wanted to tell you a little bit about, where is he? So Zhirinovsky, and does everybody remember who Zhirinovsky is? I've brought him up before in the past, and I've got some information. So he was very, very, he passed away several years ago. I don't remember the exact time he passed away, but the guy called all of this 10, 12 years ago. He called it all. And so over the last little bit, 4 or 5 months, there have been plenty of discussions about Zhirinovsky. And I got to get to his, where's my dashboard here? And I have a pair of glasses right here in my grubby little pockets. I want to tell you about Zhirinovsky. Geez, I ought to share this one with you. I forgot about this. His entire brief is here. I have Hegseth's whole brief I ought to share with you. Here you go. The United Arab. I'll get to. If I have time, I'll quickly go through this and then I'll get back to Zhirinovsky because I want to share that. A United Arab Emirates flag tugboat, the Musafa 2 has sunk in the Straits of Hormuz. 3 crew members are missing, including Indonesian nationals. Jakarta's foreign ministry says the Musafa 2 has 7 crew members from Indonesia, India, and the Philippines. 4 of the crew members survived. 3 remain missing. UN International Maritime Organization confirmed the incident, but said that it resulted in 4 facilities and 3 others were severely injured. There is no clarity on the discrepancy why it exists. Jakarta added that before the vessel sank, the boat experienced an explosion that caused it to catch fire, and an investigation is underway. Security firm Vanguard said the tugboat was struck by 2 missiles while attempting to provide assistance to the Malta-flagged container ship Safin Prestige. Traffic through the choke point is ground to a halt as the conflict in the region escalates, with U.S., Israel, and Iran pressing on with strikes and counterstrikes. This is the 9th day of the war in the region. Iran is challenging U.S. and Israel on the battlefield. Let's see. Iran isn't backing down, regardless of the kind of hits it has already taken. Let's take a look at Iran's missile arsenal. It is one of the largest in Western Asia. Before the 12-day war with Israel in June of last year, Israeli military assessments estimate that Tehran possessed 3,000 ballistic missiles. During the fighting, Israel said it destroyed hundreds of missiles along with several launch sites, but since then, Iran has rebuilt its missile, according to its own defense forces. Tehran's arsenal has recovered to around 2,500 ballistics. Most of these fall in the short-range and medium-range ballistic missile category. Short-range ballistics can travel up to 1,000. Medium-range are capable of traveling up to 3,000. These ranges allow Iran to target most of West Asia, or Western Middle East. From Western Iran, the distance to central Israel is 1,200 kilometers. And Gulf states are only 500 kilometers away. Many of Iran's early missiles use liquid propellant, a technology that requires a longer prep time before launch. They are the Shahab 1 and the Shahab 2 with range of 300 to 500 kilometers, and these missiles carry large warheads and relatively low accuracy, and they sometimes miss their targets. Later versions, the Shahab 3, the Ghadar, and the Ahmad improve in range and precision. The Ghadar missile can travel up to 2,000 kilometers and means Israel is within range from deep inside Iran. So those are important. Let's see. And I wanted to get to Zhirinovsky quickly because Zhirinovsky in 2009, and this is very short. Let's see. Talk about and I'm translating from Russian on the fly here, so it's kind of, let's talk about the service of modern civilization. The Western world thinks it's much smarter than us, and it will go from Afghanistan, will then go to Iraq, and unfortunately, there is one other but in there, but they won't go, and that is Iran, and they will not go there, but they will enforce power there, and they will back another power there. They were saying that the U.S. won't go there. They would have gone, and they went to Afghanistan, and they went to Iraq. And this is what Zhirinovsky said in 2009. And he said, and the video clip is really interesting. And he said the same thing about Ukraine. He said that Ukraine was going to start a Third World War and that it would continue into Iran. And he said and it was all going to be brought upon by Israel going into Iran and being blindly backed by the United States. Here we are, and that the U.S. itself, along with the West, will believe that they can push Russia to the brink. That's what he said about Ukraine, and absolutely correct. And such a decision in Israel was taken, unfortunately. And here is the problem. What will happen with the Islamic world? There will be a full destabilization of the Near East, of the Caucasus, which is, Turkey, Turkmenistan, Tatarstan, all of those areas, east of Ukraine, just east and south of Ukraine, and the Caucasus, and around the entire world. Because aside from the West, there are other governments interested in these powers. Wow, I didn't translate that properly. I should have translated it beforehand, but I didn't. Anyway, hope you join me tomorrow. We'll continue on with these hilarious moments on Damn Radio and International Flavor. I am Samuel Trapp. You should join me every morning from 7:30 until 9 a.m. here on Damn Radio. You can go to internationalflavor.com and get all past shows. Fridays, Civic Outlaws, very good show. We will talk about some of the things going on here in Missouri. I hope you have a beautiful mid-Missouri day. So long.